Hi guys, how you doing? Brother Ray. I keep shooting these videos and literally I get like 3 views, no comments, no likes or dislikes. It's very weird, but like I said, I'm new to this YouTube thing. I'm not expecting to like go viral and stuff, but I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, regardless. Um, I have some things in mind. I want to say this. What's the best job? I think like as a Christian that I recommend, right? The best thing a Christian can do as far as economically and as far as work, doing something for a living. Now, if you read the Bible, you see that for some reason it's very common for Christians to in the Bible, the man of God did a lot of carpentry, and it's very respectable. God seems to have a special love and appreciation for carpentry, and I have my theory on why, and I want to share. Number one, we know God is the creator. God creates things, and carpentry probably reminds him of, the act of creation and putting things together and stuff. You know, and carpentry is also a very masculine activity. And although God is, technically genderless, we can basically conclude that our God is a masculine God, right? He's a masculine force. And carpentry is a masculine activity, but not only that, carpentry is a responsible masculine activity, and we serve a responsible masculine God. And carpentry kind of has that vibe of a masculine, responsible, mature, masculine activity, and it's very common for God's people to have been carpenters in the Bible. When you read Leviticus, God actually sets carpentry as one of his like special tasks for the people of Israel. The carpenters, they were a class of their own. They were set aside for that activity. So there's an indication that carpentry is actually a godly activity, or one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Because if you read Leviticus, I think it's Leviticus, I'm pretty sure it's Leviticus, God actually gave the skill of carpentry to the people that he gave that task to. And then Jesus' father was a carpenter. Anyone could have been, God could have selected any man to be the earthly legal father of Jesus. And he chose Joseph. Obviously he saw something in Joseph that made him be selected and elected by God to be the earthly human father of Jesus. The guy that would basically take care of Jesus and raise him, as Jesus in his, as a youngster. Jesus is the Son of God, but Jesus came to earth as a man. He was a baby. He needed to, be taken care of. He was a kid, and Joseph was a man that God selected to basically take care of Jesus, raise him. And when he fulfilled his task of being a father, we believe that he died. He died before Jesus even began his ministry. I'm pretty sure that they had a strong relationship. The Bible doesn't say. Pretty sure Jesus mourned his death, and I'm pretty sure that Jesus, when he I'm pretty sure that Jesus has a very special love for Joseph, his earthly father. And Joseph was a man of integrity. He was a classy guy. He didn't he didn't know initially that Mary was to be a virgin mother. He took her anyway. he was a stand-up guy, a mature guy, a responsible man, and a carpenter, like I just said earlier. So carpentry seems to be a thing that's very special for God. And churches were built by carpenters, the early churches. It also, building a church, like physically building a church is I can imagine to be a very an activity that really pleases God, not just because you're building a church where God's people can network and fellowship together, in a place where God can reside in and be glorified, but also the very act of carpentry. So I just want to point that out, and I want to tell you that I didn't plan to talk about carpentry. I remembered it when I started shooting the video. Now, what I thought about is, being a carpenter is probably very pleasing to God, but to tie that in with the next point, the best job is probably, anything involving working for God, ministry. Like I said, carpentry can be a form of ministry if you're, using that skill to, for God, Actually, any job that you do for God, is a good idea, and I'll get to that. But basically, ministry is probably the best. I'll tell you what the best job is. The second best job is ministry. Either you're a pastor or you're a missionary. Anything that you're doing for God that involves, you make a living doing something for God, something with the church, ministry, being a pastor, a missionary, anything involving ministry, and that's what you do for a living, that's your job. That's probably like, that's the second best job you can have as a Christian. And the reason why is because of the jobs that you should not have as a Christian. And I happen to have one of those jobs. Is any jobs that are, where you're in the world, you're just dealing with worldly people. Your job is a worldly job. Like probably the worst job you can have as a Christian is like any jobs involving, entertainment, or like the gaming environment. Like you're a Christian but you work in a casino, or you're a Christian but you work at a cruise ship. Jobs that sound like fun actually, but those jobs are like a petri dish of sin, and it's very difficult if you want to be a devout Christian and you want to serve God, but you're working in the casino, or you're working at a bar, you're working in a nightclub, or you're working in any kind of entertainment job. The more worldly it is, the more difficult it is to not sin. You have your co-workers making sexual jokes or saying things, and people being foul-mouthed, and especially a casino, and you're in that environment and you're there 8 hours a day, every day. At some point you will, it'll spill on you, and you'll find yourself, you being foul-mouthed. You'll find yourself complaining, or you might be involved in rumors or actually start a rumor. There's just like, you're in an environment where it's full of sin and full of heavy satanic activity, and you're in the middle of it, and you can't really fight it. And you're just going to be in a situation where you're dealing with a bunch of heathens, a bunch of pagans, and you can't really like get religious or anything. You're bound to sin, and you're at risk of slipping, and going astray. So I say that because The more worldly the job is, the higher the chance of you like sinning frequently. But then you have more professional jobs. You work at an office or a bank or whatever. But these are still worldly jobs. The more into the world you are, the more you're gonna basically practice the ways of the world, or the higher the risk of you being a part of it. So the second best job a Christian can have is just being in ministry, because you're already doing the work of God for a living. The people that you're interacting with are either people of God, or people who are interested in God, or people who need God, and you're helping them. I mean, what could be better than you doing God's work for a living, you know? Um, and I'll tell you what's better than that. But I'll tell you what's the third best job you can have as a Christian. And that's being an entrepreneur. You being a self-employed, and basically, being self-employed, you can actually set the rules of conduct for your profession. You can be somebody who creates jobs, and then you have the ability to hire quality people, and you're also not going to be directly involved with those people in the way that you would as a coworker. And those people can actually deal with the customer for you. So being an entrepreneur, you're not just gaining the benefits, the material and financial benefits of being an entrepreneur, but you're also minimizing your risk of being contaminated by the pagan world. You get me? Therefore, you're minimizing your risk of being part of that world, and being an entrepreneur. At some point you're gonna have more freedom and more room to move with, and it's just probably gonna be better as a Christian. You'll be happier as an entrepreneur, and your life is more balanced, which means that your mind is in a place where you can actually like meditate on God and stuff, as opposed to a regular 9 to 5. And it's just better anyway, being an entrepreneur, Christian or not. But if you're a Christian, a devout Christian, and you're an entrepreneur, that's awesome. That's a great blessing. Only thing better than that as a Christian is to actually work in ministry, because at the end of the day, when you're a Christian, God is above everything. God is better than money. God is better than anything. God is better. So better than being an entrepreneur and making money and being a boss is actually serving the real boss, which is God. So the third best job you can have as a Christian is being an entrepreneur and independent. The second best job you can have as a Christian is actually working for God, for a living, working in ministry. And the number one job you can have as a Christian is both. The best job you can have as a Christian is being an entrepreneur who is independent, who is also working for God in ministry. Now, what's a good combination of that is being a pastor. As a pastor, and I'm talking about being a legit, a devout, God-fearing pastor. As a pastor, you're pretty much working for God. And if you do a good job, you're going to be doing that for a living. Your whole entire job is working for God. And the financial support you get, comes from your salary as a pastor. That's the way it should be. The money that goes to the church goes to maintain the church and to help the members and for ministry. But the pastor also gets a salary, as he should, because he's doing that for a living. He should get, a pastor should get compensated for devoting, setting his life, for that reason, The pastor should be compensated for it. That's his job. He's doing this for a living. A man should be paid his wages, as the Bible says, as Jesus said, and as Paul said, quoting Jesus. So, another way is you can, whatever you could, like what I'm doing. You can trade. You can trade forex, and you know, and you're day trading, and you're successful at it. You make a living day trading, but day trading only takes a few hours max, and the rest of the day you can, you know, set your whole day for, serving God and doing the will of God, evangelizing and everything. But you're still working in the markets, trading. Or you can set up a business, and hire good people and create a system so that you can operate that business on autopilot, right? And that business is generating income for you and operating on autopilot, and you have the mobility and the freedom and the ability to serve God, so you can actually accomplish both. You can be an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur who is serving God. That's like, it can't get better than that. That's the number one job. The second best job is working for God. Regardless of how much money you're making, you're working for God. That's all there is to it. What you don't make in money, you make up for it in heaven. Number three is be an entrepreneur who happens to be a sincere and devout Christian. So those are the best jobs you can have as a Christian. And the worst jobs you can have is, working in the middle of sin, where sin is taking place. Basically that's every job on earth. And, some are more than others. The jobs that have the most sins are jobs that are entertaining. Working in a nightclub, working at a bar, um, working in a casino, in a cruise ship. You have a lot of horny people working, and a lot of sexual lust, a lot of opportunities for um, alcohol, opportunities for smoking, opportunities for conflicts, opportunities for gossip. It's just working in an environment where people have no fear of God, and you're in the middle of it. That's not good. So there it is. That's my video. Thank you. Give me your thoughts. Thank you.